So as I said to you earlier, I'm a civil engineer, and I teach all sorts of things from mostly at the moment level 3 to level 5, and teaching people number stuff is only a tiny part of what I do, but you still have to do it, don't you? You try and do it as best you can. So I try and have a look at stuff, and I picked this. This was a story in the local paper last year. Cambridge Cycle Route Bridge, too long. And there's this lovely snap, and here you can see this is a little very clean piece of water that this cycle track bridge is going over, and it's too long. And let's read what the journalist wrote, or I'll help you through it. So it was a £250,000 project, so quite a lot of money, cycle route, and the contractors hired by Cambridge County Council. They were putting the bridge across the Tins. Local resident Paul Scale said it was at least 2 foot, so how old's he then? At least 2 foot too long. The spokesman for the council said, "This is an error made by one of our contractors. They will be paid to correct their fault." Okay. So on Monday the council said, "Oh, it's nearly complete." And a couple of days later, it isn't. The local resident said there was much pointing and scratching of heads. They picked up their bridge and took it away. Okay. And anyway, Mr. Sale said a huge crane turned up, followed by a prefabricated metal bridge on the back of a lorry. They picked the bridge up, they put it down where it was supposed to go, and it didn't fit. And I have my photo to prove it. And there was much pointing and scratching of heads. They picked up their bridge and took it away. So, where are we? This was quite an extraordinary mistake. As big as this could happen in these days of communication and emails, he said. The council admitted that fixing the bridge would delay the project. A spokesman said, "We are pressing the contractor to correct this mistake as quickly as possible, and we'll announce the opening date as soon as we can." Here's the stream that we're interested in. You can see the cycle track here, see the bridge. Let's zoom in a bit more. Okay, let's just move that window over. Okay, so here's the bridge we're talking about. Here's the track, kink like that. Okay, now what I want you to think about for 2 minutes with the person next to you is why that bridge didn't fit. What's the backstory? What's the backstory? So with the person next to you, try and think, well, what went wrong? Did the chap come with his tape measure and measure it wrong? Did some twit in the factory who hadn't been to his FE college and studied hard measure it out wrong? So just try and think if you can think of what, with the person next to you, maybe in pairs. So a pair. Try and think, why did that go wrong? What went wrong? What do you think?
Materials deposited.
I mean, you would think first of all erosion, but that's
Materials
not.
deposited also by the flow of the river, isn't it? That's where you get U-bends.
Yeah, but that wouldn't affect the length of the actual track leading up to it.
Okay,
I
30
don't
seconds
know.
left to come up
Maybe
with
just
a conclusion.
one bit doesn't
Let's see
talk
what
to
you
the other
think.
bit.
One's supposed to be there, supposed to be the one.
I mean, to me, either that was measured incorrectly,
Somewhere along the line between
or
the people who laid the track
was measured
and the people who made the
incorrectly.
bridge. I would have said.
Okay,
So-
so there's a pause now, so I'm going to jump back in. So,
don't know,
any
but
suggestions?
that
What's
was
the
made.
backstory? Why did this? What was wrong? Any thoughts? Anyone like to venture an idea? I don't know the answer, so you can't get it wrong.
Either erosion or deposition. of
Erosion or
materials.
deposition. So that they were building. Remember, they were building both the abutments and the bridge all at the same time. So I don't.
Either that or they don't know what they're talking about and actually need something to rest on to support the weight of the bridge.
Okay, so
The people who built the cycle track didn't talk to the people who made the bridge.
So where the bridge should be sitting here, that bit is an
Yeah.
abutment. It's the support for the bridge either side. Does that make sense?
Maybe somebody measured it imperial and then got it wrong when they converted it.
It's good to move on, but I just want to make sure you understand what an abutment is.
Yeah, but that wasn't what I said. I said maybe the people who laid the cycle path, which goes as far as the white line,
Right,
didn't talk to the people who made the bridge.
right. Okay, and so the distance from here to the other side is shorter than they made the bridge. Is that what it is?
Well, I don't quite see, if they'd made the bridge too small, I could see that they'd measured it perhaps from the abutment rather than from the track.
Right.
But it's too big, so I don't see how they managed that.
Okay.
What I don't understand.
Sorry, can I return because I interrupted you? Sorry.
Right.
Said maybe somebody measured it imperially and then converted it wrong when they put it into metric.
Okay, so it was an older person and they measured imperial in the factory. Yeah, that's possible. You had a.
I was just wondering why they, it still works, doesn't it?
Well, no,
Still-
if you're going to
so
have
if you're on a bike, you can.
You can easily put a little round bit there.
It's hard,
That's
yeah.
hard, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
sort
know
of bit
what I
like we
mean?
do,
Rather
you
than
can
waste
sort of kick
250
it
grand.
around, sort of, that'd be all right. And yes,
On the map view, it looks like the cycle lane's on an angle.
okay, let's just go back so we can all see what you're talking about.
We
Okay,
took a straight line of where the cycle lane's going, but the bridge has been put at right angles to the stream. So
Right. and
trigonometry
actually,
tells us would be
yeah, so the distance diagonally is longer than the distance straight across. Yeah, so but clearly somebody has made it. Now, what would we guesstimate? £250,000 project. What's the cost of that mistake, roughly? Anyone want to think of a
Could
number?
be anything, because the guy ain't going to get enough for order, is he?
It's not going to get to the company alone, but to the main contractor, roughly. If it's 250,000 for the whole job, any thoughts? Some of you have engineering background. I mean, I'm a construction background, so it could be. You could make the abutments. You could pull the abutments further apart. You could take the bridge back to the factory and cut it and make it a bit shorter. An engineering, mechanical solution. Roughly, what's going to be the
I
cost?
don't know.
If somebody
20,000, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if at least £20,000 to put that problem right. Okay, and I would postulate that maybe this. So this is a question. Imagine you work for a contractor in Milton Keynes, because that's sort of about an hour and a half's drive from Cambridge, and you've won the job to build a new cycle track in Cambridge. The cycle track was originally designed to cross the brook at an angle of 48 degrees. So when I say an angle of 48 degrees, I mean that this red line runs in line with the brook. This red line runs at 90 degrees to that red line, and I'm saying the bridge, that angle, rather than being straight across, it was an angle of 48 degrees. Okay. And the client rings you up and says, well, actually, we want to change the alignment from 48 degrees to 44 degrees, because what we found is, in building the abutments, there were some old foundations in the way. We've moved them slightly because that made it easy for us. You've just got to make a slight change to your bridge, 44 degrees. Okay, now, because college, didn't they teach me how to do something to do with triangles, and I know I can work this out, okay? Now, I suspect it was a problem like that made the bridge to be too long by just a little bit. That somebody has made a small calculation error, only this much, in quite a long bridge, which in class at school, I say to my students, you get a cross next to the answer, no damage done. That small calculation error has cost £20,000, and as you said, you're a reputational damage of unknown amount, and you might not get the next job. Okay. So, if we could learn how to do this and get it right on this one simple occasion, that's £20,000 in the bag and no reputational damage. So I've established here, what I've done is establish a need to solve a problem that involves triangles. So in the class, so now, so the students have talked about what's this problem? This is a real problem. Yeah, I took it from the local paper. I mean, you guys may not know Cambridge, but it's local to the area. Some of them may have even cycled over that bridge on the way to college. So I've tried to embed a real problem and the need and the value of solving a real problem. And it's really important to use vocational language. Like, try and use vocationally relevant language rather than abstract maths. E.g., rather than calculate the volume of a cylinder, calculate how much sewage we will have to tanker away to empty a block drain run. So that there's a purpose. Yeah. What I find with most of my students that working out in the abstract is very difficult, and that they find transposing A equals B divided by C very difficult. And even if they can work out how to do that, if you then say B equals D divided by A, they can't do it. And it's because it's very abstract. But if you say, I want to build a soakaway, it's got to be so many cubic metres, it's a small garden, so I've only got this area to fit it in, how deep does my soakaway need to be? You're in with a chance.